Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, and right alongside, of course, each and every week is none other than Legends Tour player and LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and we are, of course, the hosts of the Women of Golf Show. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Ted. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's another beautiful day here in North Florida. Sun's not shining quite yet, but hopefully it's going to come out in a little while. It's a little bit overcast, but I can't complain. The weather's still warm. We're going to have a great show today, Cindy. We've got a very interesting guest coming on the second half of the show. John Godwin is the Director of Player Development for the U.S. Kids Golf Foundation. He'll be joining us in the second half. And then we're going to have a little discussion this morning on some of the goals, if you will, that you might want to have for your junior golf camps, for you coaches out there, teachers, and also for you parents that might be tuning into the show this morning. There might be some good information that you might get here if you're thinking about putting your kid into a junior golf camp or having them participate. So Cindy and I are going to talk to you a little bit about that here, but let me remind everybody, of course, we are live every Tuesday morning, unless otherwise stated, from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time here on blogtalkradio.com. Just visit that link, and up in the search key, you can just type Women of Golf, or you can just type blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf, and that will take you there as well. And we will be front and center every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern. If for some reason you can't join us, though, and you want to listen to the program when it's maybe more convenient for you, you can just visit that link again and scroll down to the on-demand section, and that will take you there. And you can listen to all of the shows that you may have missed. They're all auto-recorded, even though we are live right now. And you can listen to them when it's convenient for you. So not to worry, they're always there whenever you want to listen. You can also, on some of the other great social media platforms, you might want to tune into iTunes.com or Stitcher.com or now TuneIn.com. And under the podcast section, again, just type in Women of Golf, and that will take you there as well. If you want to contact Cindy and I during the show, if you want to call in and say hello, or maybe you've got some questions or comments about the program, you can do so by calling in at area code 347-945-5855. That's 347-945-5855. Or you can certainly reach out via email to either one of us, and Cindy's email is cindy@cindymillergolf.com, and mine is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. So, Cindy, as I said, we're going to talk about some of the goals, I guess, that you might have for a junior golf camp. And let me just start off, I guess, with probably an obvious one that you and I want to sort of recuse myself, as I mentioned to you off air. I don't really do junior golf camps myself. I tend to deal more with corporate clients. But I still think it's an important area of golf, as I know many golf professionals like yourself, Cindy, that do a lot of junior golf camps and things like that. So I thought it would be a good topic to have for today. So I'm going to rely on you, Cindy, to help me a little bit with this. But I think probably one of the first things that you want to do is obviously you want to make sure that you're teaching some of the fundamentals of golf. And again, it depends on the age groups that you're dealing with. And that obviously covers a wide range of things. But I think that you want to make it as fun and sort of inspiring and learning as much as possible. What are your thoughts there? What do you try to sort of accomplish with your boot camps or your golf camps?
Well, again, it always depends on who's your audience and how old are they. But the number one thing is, again, you just mentioned fun. It's funny because some people in California did a survey with a bunch of schools to find out what kids do after school and what, programs do they participate in. And they mentioned soccer and dance and football and baseball and karate, and no one mentioned golf. And the reason they didn't mention golf is because it wasn't any fun, and they didn't know golf could be fun. So number one thing is you have to have fun. You have to have fun.
Yeah.
Number two thing is
I agree with
depending
that.
on the age limit or the age that you're teaching. So the little ones, needless to say, you get U.S. Kids Golf Clubs, and you play games with them. And you know what's funny is, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter how old they are. Even the grown-ups like to play games. So if you can show them that this can be fun and they can learn things while they don't really know that they're learning, which is kind of cool.
Right.
Sometimes the parents get a little wiggy because they're like, well, why aren't you hitting balls? I'm like, well, we're going to hit balls, but we're going to have fun, So it's like, they think they should hit 3 jumbo buckets in an hour and have blisters and bleed, but that's not really the case.
Right.
And if you do that, nobody's going to come back. So fun is number one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Cindy, it's funny. Past Thursday, I had a great panel discussion, and I know you'll know who I'm talking about. But Nicole Weller from Savannah, Georgia, was one of the guests on the panel, and she brought 3 great fellow coaches. And it was interesting because we had, in addition to another one here in the U.S., we had 2, one from Ireland and one from Italy, actually come in on the conversation. And it was funny because one of the, and you sort of alluded a little bit to it, one of the things that came up in the discussion was the fact that, people don't, or how they equate golf. And it's kind of sad, really. And we've talked about this a little bit before, and I don't want to take up too much time because I want to stay on the topic that we've got. But one of the comments was made that, again, people are under this misconception that golf is an elitist sport and that it's not for them, and that it's a lot of hard work, which we know it can be depending on what level you want to get to, but it doesn't come across as a fun sport. And I think a lot of that is through some of the marketing and that has gone over the years. It's just not promoted maybe in the best way it could be. But it kind of goes to what you were talking about, that study. People don't think of golf. When they think of extracurricular activities, they're soccer and baseball and karate and dance and all these other things. And that's, I believe, is a real issue, because if we truly want to grow this game, especially at the junior level, it can't be all about competition. It's also got to be about, just getting out there and having fun. And I think, which sort of leads to the next thing, is I think we want to promote learning, but it's got to be through some fun games and some interesting games, and not just all about, as you said, hitting, 2 or 3 jumbo buckets out there and getting blisters on your hands. It's got to be about, having some other kind of fun and enjoyment with it. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely true. I mean, again, depending on where you teach, we teach inside a dome in Buffalo in the winter and outside in the summer. And there's a game we play, one of the many games we play is tic-tac-toe on the green. And you can use tic-tac-toe to make teams. And then what you do is, sometimes we play the girls against the boys, or we divide them up into age groups and try to make the teams fair. And then who gets the ball, inside tic-tac-toe. And you can do it with chipping, you can do it with putting. And, really what you're practicing is distance control. Alignment, right? Stroke shape, reading greens. So you're doing all that, but they don't realize that's what they're doing. And needless to say, the time goes by faster. It appears as though they're goofing off maybe, but they're really not goofing off. They're really learning an awful lot of things. So to me, it's just really, really important. I do have to say one other thing. I was on a call with the executive committee of the LPGA last night, and we were talking about, how do we get more women to join the LPGA? And really, Sandy LeBeau made a comment and said, we really should maybe make a tree, and with the roots of starting a child playing golf, junior golf, and what does that child learn and receive by knowing how to play the game? And my big deal, there's so many opportunities, if not only in business, but how many jobs are there in golf where you aren't a tour player? You know, we have a daughter who's, you know, in charge of morning drive at the Golf Channel, and she's broken 90 once, so she's not good. She plays once a year, doesn't love the game, but yet she's working in the golf business. So, again, the more you can expose kids to the game, you know, it's invaluable for learning accountability, respect, you know, everything.
Right, and that kind of really goes to my point as well, is I think the misconception that a lot of people have is sort of the only exposure to golf that most people really see is what they see on television, the tour players and things like that. And that's fantastic. I mean, you know, by all means, let's promote that. But they don't see the other side of it. They don't see that, you know, you or I, you know, they know about us. They know there's golf professionals out there that teach golf, but they don't really see all of the other benefits. And really, the tour represents such a small percentage of what the golf industry has to offer. And I understand why they promote it, and I get that. But it gives the illusion that it's not something that's attainable for everybody out there. And as you just pointed out, your daughter, who's of course been a guest on the show, you know, is not what I would call an accomplished golfer, but she can play golf, and you know, does have fun when she goes out there. She's in the business side of golf, and it's provided her some great opportunities and access to things that maybe she might not have had if she didn't get involved in golf in some way. So yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do. And something else too, Cindy, that and I'm sure we can both attest to, and this is something that we want to get through with our junior golfers, is the sort of promotion of golf friendships, the great friends that you make through golf, not just for business, but for personal as well. It's a great way to develop and build friends as well by getting involved in something, because, you know, most sports you might play for an hour, but golf you can be out there for several hours, and it's a great way to communicate with people and spend some good quality time. What are your thoughts there?
Well, you know, it's really funny because our guest this morning, John Godwin, when I went to get certified as a U.S. Kids golf instructor, he said to me, "Are you married to Alan Miller?" And I said, "Yeah." Now, again, Alan's going to be 70, right? And he says, "I played junior golf with Alan Miller." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me right now?" So, again, there is really no other sport where you can say that about someone. Our son, you know, all of his junior golf buddies were in his wedding. You know, you make friends for a lifetime. Truly you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, what's interesting, and just to quickly point out about Alan, is, you know, here's somebody that's, you know, is now 70 years old, that's still out playing golf, that's still out teaching golf and working in the industry. You know, most people when they get to that age are retiring, or they're not as active in any kind of sport. Golf is something that allows you, regardless of your age, whether you're a junior or whether you're in the senior side of things, you can still be very active in a lot of ways, and that's not always easy with some of the other sports. And golf is just very unique. I don't think people, and that's why I'm getting the point across. I think that I don't think people truly understand the whole area or genre of golf and what it really entails. And I think that's something that hopefully we can do over time in promoting. I think the other thing too is, you know, Cindy, is we want to encourage, and again, this goes to the friendship, is developing, you know, interaction in group type practices. Obviously, we want to work individually with students at times, but I think it's good to create that group environment with some of your golf camps. And I know you do that with your boot camp. So talk a little bit about that, the sort of interaction between the fellow participants.
Well, you know, it's funny that you say that because we just finished the junior golf boot camp in Florida at Orange County National a few weeks ago. And there were two girls who play on very competitive rival teams, high school golf teams in Buffalo. And it's funny because we teach both teams, most of the girls on both teams. And the underdog team has really, they've got 4 girls on their team that are consistent students that work on their game a lot. One of them is really, really shy and quiet. And it's funny because the shy and quiet ones can sometimes appear snotty, stuck up, right? So this young girl who was the quiet, shy one, who did not participate in the radio show that day, by the way, because she was too shy. She didn't want to do it. Was with Victoria, and Victoria was on the show with us that day. And so they really never got along. They never talked to each other. Well, they were trapped like rats, 2,500 miles away from home with Cindy and Alan Miller for 5 days on the golf course. And now they're like best of buddies, and they want to come to the group practices together. And it's so funny. And the dads both said the other day, because they came on Sunday afternoon to the group practice at the Dome, and said, isn't it funny that these two have never even spoken to each other? And now they're texting and saying, okay, when are you going to practice? I want to go too. So it clearly can break barriers. The game is just, it's awesome. And sometimes it's a preconceived notion. That you have about someone, and you can say, wow, I didn't realize they're really a nice person.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean, and just, again, I know this is not really capitalizing on the junior part, but, from the business side of things, and we've talked about this before, and we'll talk about it again, I'm sure, but from a business standpoint, and I know when I'm working with a lot of my corporate people, one of the biggest benefits is the amount of information that they're able to gather while playing with some of their prospective clients. And it's not a matter of even talking about necessarily the business at hand. It's just general information about the individual, what their likes are, what their dislikes are, how they handle themselves out on the golf course. Gives them a wealth of information. If there's somebody that's very shy and difficult to approach, then obviously a more aggressive tactic is not something that they're going to use when they're ready to actually give their sales pitch. So they might have to handle them with a little bit more kid gloves. If they're, again, a different personality where they are more aggressive, then they know how to handle that as well. So it gives them a bit of a precursor when they're ready to really do some business, but they're also able to create a fun environment by having their clients around and a relaxed environment, because Lord only knows we all need some time away from the office once in a while just to wind down and sort of let our hair down, if you will. And golf is a great way to do that. It gets you away for a little while and just gives you an opportunity to just develop friendships. And, whether you end up doing business out of it or not sometimes there are greater rewards that can be had, just like in this case with these 2 young girls. They may not, they're competing with one another, and one may win, one may lose, but they're developing a friendship out of that, which hopefully will last a lifetime. The other thing, too, is, and you kind of alluded a little bit to this, Cindy, in the beginning, and that was really about practicing in a fun and effective manner. I mean, I think that a lot of people put too much pressure on the juniors too early in their time, trying to get them to, beat balls for hours, and that's not always the best way. Number one, the kid's going to get tired out a little bit too quick and kind of resent that, and they're not going to have fun. So what are some things that you like to do? I mean, obviously you want to practice, you want to teach them the basic skills and fundamentals of the game, but how do you do it in such a way that you're not overdoing it and creating an environment where they're oh God, I got to get up there and hit 100 balls? What do you try to do when you and Alan put together some of your boot camps?
Well, what we do is we'll have them practice certain distances. Let's say we're like at the Dome, we're trying to learn how to fly at 30 yards on purpose. So we'll have them all hit some shots and say, okay, what are you doing? Where are you gripping it? How do you perform this shot? And then what we'll do is we'll call them all together, and this is incorporating your next point, is learning how to play under pressure. We'll say, okay, let's have, again, boys against the girls. Let's see who can fly it closest. And then, if the parents are standing around, we have the parents be judges and say, okay, who won that one? And then we have prizes and stuff like that. But, you have to break it up because the monotony of standing there hitting balls, it's a little boring. And I must say to you, the other thing is, if a child really wants to be good, I don't think they understand the work that it takes to be good. I think sometimes kids in this day and age think they can hit balls and play just a little bit and really get good at this, and that's not the case. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons I love the game, because you don't get to be great and shoot under par just because you want to. I mean, you really have to invest the time and energy and the work to do this. And so, there's two sides to it. If you want to have fun, yes, have fun. If you want to kick it up a notch, and it's funny because one of the young girls that we teach is going to Augusta for the drive, chip, and putt. And she, the last tournament she played in was a U.S. Kids Golf Tournament at Atlanta or Innisbrook, I forget. It was in the winter. And she won by 10 shots, shot 71. And she's starting to play in Western New York PGA tournaments, and she's 9. Okay? And so last year, you have no idea. Last year she played 9 holes, okay, when she was 8, carried her own bag or pulled the cart, right, and beat the 12-year-olds, okay? And I'm like, oh, wow, is Lily playing? Here's the deal. She's at the Dome 4 days a week. How much time are you putting in? So, again, there's a different level there, and yes, she's being pushed a little bit, and, we'll see what happens down the road. But, again, let's have some fun, and then depending on the level that you want to compete at, you got to turn it up a notch. So I'm all in for fun, but also, again, now another example is I've got another young girl who's going to play college golf next year, D2. She gets to go to play. She's not getting a scholarship, and her dad says if you don't get a scholarship, you have to come home. Okay. So I said to her the other day, did you sign up for the Western New York PGA tournaments? And she said, well, no, I'm not sure where I should play. She goes, I'm going to be going to school in August. I go, okay. Well, at the beginning of the season, it might be snowing. Okay. Guess what? It might be snowing when you're in college, too. So it's like, well, now that you're going to go to school, does that mean you stop working because that was the goal? So, again, I think they're not all sure, and they really need some counseling, consulting, planning and goal setting is really what needs to happen, depending on the level.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And I think that, going back to the 9-year-old for a second, she has to take the initiative and the lead if she wants to play competitive. And again, there's certainly, you can, as a parent, you can be encouraging and give a little nudge here and there, especially if they're not confident. But to be overbearing and pressuring them is going to actually do more harm than good. So I agree with that. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And what a fantastic young lady. I mean, at 9 years old, to be beating, girls that are 3-4 years older than her, and not by just a stroke or two, but by quite a bit. So it'd be interesting. I wonder if she's got a manager yet, Cindy. We might need to sign her up, you and I, or something, because she might be the next LPGA star out there. So. But it goes to what you said. You have to make it fun, and there are going to be some individuals, some juniors that are going to stand out, and not just have maybe a little stronger ability, but are going to have maybe a stronger instinct or interest in wanting to take it a little bit further. And those are the ones that you can be a little bit more assertive with. And I don't like to use the word aggressive, but I think assertive with. And helping them. But I agree with what you just said and sort of assessing their goals and helping them set goals and kind of just mentoring them a little bit and guiding them, but not with a heavy hand, but with sort of a gentle nudging in the right direction. And obviously the last one, Cindy, very quickly, and then we'll bring John out here to join us. I think, and again, depending on the level, but it's never too early to start, and that is to focus on some of the etiquette and maybe even some basic rules of the game, helping them to learn and understand and how to act out in the golf course and how to treat one another when they're out the golf and be courteous and considerate and know when it's their turn to play, so to speak, I think are some important things as well. And I know, Cindy, from the past that you've talked about that you try to do that with the youngsters that participate in your and Alan's boot camp. So maybe just touch briefly on that, and then we'll introduce John.
Absolutely. I think you need to go over the rules. I think that, again, when they play in summer junior tournaments, U.S. kids tournaments, the dads can caddy,
Sure.
which is a great thing. Sometimes, I might say, because there's parents that need to be fired. But and it's funny because I've caddied in U.S. kids tournaments. We've got a young girl who, when she started out, Adriana, neither parent played golf at all. And I said, okay, I'll just caddy for her. And so some of these parents act like they're, Michelle Weiss or Justin Thomas's mom and dad, and they're like walking, and I'm like, easy, take it easy, pal. Again, they have no idea who this old lady is, right?
Right.
You finally have to just say, I played on the LPGA tour. Back it off, pal, right? And so,
right.
Again, sometimes the kids have, oh, my God, you can't believe some of these parents. So anyway, the other thing is that sometimes kids have trouble counting. And I believe
Yes.
it's the pressure that the parents put on them. This is a great thing we should talk about with John. So some of the kids, I say to them, if Susie says, oh, I had a 7, and it was a 9, you don't say, oh, you're cheating. You say, really? Hang on, let's go through that again. You teed off, that was
Right.
1, you hit it out of bounds, you reloaded 3, you chunked it 4, you knocked it on 5, and then you 5-putted. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah. So, unfortunately,
Right.
some of the kids have to pay attention to not only their game, but their playing partners. So,
Right.
It's just a game about life, and the lessons that they learn are immeasurable.
Oh, yeah, and you're so right. And we'll talk a little bit about that with John as well when we bring him on board. So on that note, let me introduce our guest this morning, Cindy, and then we'll bring him on and have him join the conversation. What a great topic to start the show off with and roll it out and finish it out with somebody who's involved with junior kids golf. And our very special guest this morning is John Godwin. He's the Director of Player Development for the U.S. Kids Golf Foundation. And some of the foundation's initiatives include over 1,400 annual competitions, the U.S. Kids Golf Top 50 Kids Teachers Award, which you alluded to earlier, Cindy, and its introduction to golf program curriculum. In 2012, he co-founded the organization's Certified Coach Program, and since then, over 3,600 golf professionals from 49 states and 40 nations have participated in the training. John himself is a PGA Master Professional, and I say formally served as the Vice President of the Georgia section because he's now, as of March 19th of this year, he's now the President of the Georgia section. He's also been the Rocky Mountain Section Player of the Year and Teacher of the Year, as well as the Georgia Section Junior Golf Leader recipient. In 2004, he was selected as the National Junior Golf Leader by the PGA of America, and which, of course, it's highest honor for youth golf development. And he's a graduate of FSU, Florida State University, and lives in Pine Mountain, Georgia. So, Cindy, let's bring out our very special guest this morning, John Godwin.
Good morning.
Good morning, Cindy. How are you?
Good. This is Ted and Cindy. Ted Odorico is the main host. I'm the helper person. But we welcome you and thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. I've been listening to the show. You guys are spot on.
Well, John, let me just start by saying I welcome as well, and we appreciate you joining us this morning. And what a great, a great topic to have on the show is to talk about really some of the junior golf programs out there, because this is where we're really going to grow the game is at the junior level. And I know you're obviously well aware of a lot of the different programs that U.S. Kids Golf offers, Nat. But just tell us, maybe give us a little bit of an oversight, maybe in addition to what I talked about in your introduction, specifically what the main mission or purpose of the U.S. Kids Golf Foundation is. And then we'll go on.
Well, the mission of U.S. Kids Golf is to create lasting memories through family interaction, and golf is the vehicle to do that. So it's listening to you guys talk about the lifelong friends you have. Certainly, Cindy, with Alan and I going way back in the day in Georgia Junior Golf. It's important, and it's I think those of us that are in the game, we're really blessed to have this gift of golf, and having fallen in love with it as a young kid. I'm doing the right thing that I'm doing right now, serving a lot of the youth around the country.
Yeah, what an enviable job you have, John. In fact, I think a lot of professionals would enjoy doing that, because you're really working with an area of golf that is very crucial to the game. I mean, we always talk about, and as I alluded to earlier, we hear about what's happening out in the tour and the tour players, but that actually represents a very small amount or percentage of the golf industry in general. And you've worked with a lot of great professionals who've come and taken some of the certification programs that are offered through U.S. Kids Golf, as Cindy has done, and you get a first-hand chance of meeting some of the great professionals out there that want to help some of the youngsters. So just sort of piggybacking on our conversation a little bit, John, if you don't mind, I wanted to ask you, and Cindy had made the comment about parents, and we wanted to get your thought on this, sort of the role of the parents, if you will. If they've got a little junior golfer out there that wants to maybe take up the game or is taking up the game, what role should the parents play, and what advice would you have for any parents that might be listening out there, how they can be involved in helping their juniors?
I think first and foremost, it's a parent's role should really be try to get their kid to fall in love with golf. That would be step one. And I think sometimes it's easy to get confused with that and trying to make an introduction to the game with a 7, 8, or 9-year-old, and they might be 8 years old, and you're trying to make them 18 years old by tomorrow. I think that Right. It's a process that you guys said it. Keep it fun. You've got to think long term, and you've got to undercoach. I know Cindy is passionate about this. Overcoaching can get to be a problem. So the parents' role, I mean, those that are golf smart are going to coach some, but they've got to be very careful about it. And, showing patience, they've got to teach humility. They need to make it social. So it's because they're at trial stage. So if you've got a young player that's really getting going, they're just sticking the toe in the water and just seeing if they like golf. And so you're just trying to get a next. Okay, we'll go next time. Let's go putt and have an ice cream and a pizza. And so they associate the activity with fun, and there's plenty of time for development. I think we as coaches sometimes miss that mark. We forget they're at trial stage, and we're trying to make them, little shrunken touring pros by Friday.
Right. Right. Let me just ask one other quick question, and Cindy, I'll throw the mic over to you. John, Cindy alluded to earlier in the program in our discussion about how there was sort of a recent study done out in California, and one of the issues that came up was, when it comes to extracurricular activities, what kids most likely think about, and some of the topics that came out were, of course, baseball and football and maybe soccer and karate and dance and all these other things, and golf wasn't mentioned. What do you think the industry needs to do better in getting golf sort of in that vocabulary of extracurricular things? What is it that we're not doing that we should be doing, in your opinion?
Is that for Cindy or me, Ted?
No, that's for you, John. No, sorry, that was for you, John. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it really boils down to a real simple thing. If a young kid comes out to golf and and they're just getting started, these kids today are really hip and smart, and they're assessing the environment. Okay, is this, number one, is this fun? Is this something that I could see myself doing or my friends doing? And to really grow this thing, I think we as professionals, those that are delivering the curriculum, the content, the programming, I think we need to look at that first, because there was a study done by the National Youth Sports Association of 40,000 youth, and the question was asked, well, why do you play youth sports? And it goes back to, it's so simple. It's the fun component, and we've got to make our game, that's a traditional game, modern and hip enough that the kids can relate to it and move on. Because once they get into it and they come back to it next, you start to get them hooked.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the accessibility, too, is critical. Very recently on Faraday on the Golf Channel, of course, that program, Jack Nicklaus was on with a couple of others. And one of the comments that he made was really about the accessibility, that golf is still, for many people, is very expensive, and that he wanted to be able to find ways to make it more affordable for the average person out there. And that's one of the deterrents, I think, that a lot of parents have, as opposed to some of the other sports out there that are maybe a little bit less expensive. So I think that's one area as well that needs to be looked at a little bit more. And that's not just about giving away lessons at great discounted prices, but it's also the equipment side, and also the accessibility to golf courses, I think, needs to be a little bit more affordable for some people. Cindy, go ahead. I know you've got some questions as well.
Let me ask you a question. I've got parents of a 4 and a 2-year-old, and they're pretty tall, and they wanted to get the 4-year-old clubs, and they signed them up for a clinic, and they wanted me to sit there and teach him how to swing. And I said, at this point, he just needs to have fun, and he needs to enjoy coming with you. And when you're done, you should take him over and play putt-putt, because we've got a putt-putt at the Dome. And we ordered them both clubs, and believe it or not, the 2-year-old, the 39-inch U.S. Kids clubs they fit him. And so my question to you is, how do you handle overbearing parents without being rude?
Well, I always say this, Cindy, a parent's heart's always in the right place, and it's our job to get their mind in the right place. Sometimes it's a difficult challenge for a parent sometimes, especially if you've got a young kid that is kind of liking golf and has been out there doing it and can hit the ball, and they see the potential, and they want to give them the best opportunity. So I counsel parents maybe in a little different way, and I say, look, you've got a 4-year-old. I'm going to try to make this as the most fun I can make it for age 4, and then next year they're going to be 5, and we'll make it fun for a 5-year-old. It's knowing where the kid is at the moment and setting the expectation. So I try to get a little reality for the parent that if you set the standard and set the expectation, then it's easier to manage, and you can start to hit some marks. And on the club fitting side, it's really what we always say around here. Kids should grow out of their clubs and not into them. I think you did a good job on getting them set up correctly. So and it's the biggest opportunity I think we have as professionals on this parent side of thing you alluded to earlier, that sometimes you get some that just get a little out of control, but even the ones that are out of control, their heart's right. And so I'll bring them aside, and at Pinehurst at our World Championship, we'll play 6,000 rounds over 2 weeks between the teen and our 12 and under group, and we will have 4 or 5 what I call high octane moments that are requires intervention, but it's easy to get them back in line when when the emotions calm down, and so really, if you look at it from those numbers, statistically it's insignificant, the amount of situations that require us to become involved. So parents' involvement's really important. I'll give you a quick backstory. I don't want to ramble on too much, but a backstory, Cindy, that we had decided when we were going to let parents get involved caddying, and this goes all the way back to 2000 when Morgan Pressel was in the Women's U.S. Open at Pine Needles. Were you playing there? Were you
Nope,
in that field?
But I was not.
Morgan was 12, and her dad could caddy for her that week in the Women's U.S. Open. And the very next week, Morgan was in the U.S. Junior, but her dad couldn't caddy for her there. And we were having internal discussions here at U.S. Kids. Well, are we going to have parents involved? And I kind of made the comment, well, we have to have them involved. We can't send 6 or 7-year-olds out on the course and even expect them to return. They won't be able to keep score. We've got to have the parental. We've got to have parents involved. So it's our opportunity. We embrace that. So it's an educational opportunity, and I think that's what we do now through our certified program. It's our next frontier, if you will. And I know there's a lot of scholars out there. There's a lot of research that's been done here with parental roles in youth sport, and it's something that's important for us because it fits our mission statement back to family interaction with lasting memories. So it's the next frontier to come over. But I don't want our listeners to think, and certainly I tell this to my professionals all the time, that I don't want you to think that the youth sport parent in golf is a chronic problem. Problems do exist, and when you think about a large group of people getting together, there's going to be issues, and there's going to be some that are probably a little more passionate and heated than others. But then that's when we would intervene and tell them our culture, and basically I just say the way we do things around here is this way. And then parents want to get in line, and they want to be part of a good situation.
Yeah, that's a great point, John. Yeah, you're exactly right, and I think it's important. You know, we certainly don't want to imply that this is a rampant issue that a lot of parents are difficult to deal with. It is a very, very small percentage. You're exactly right. We just simply want to, make the folks aware that when these problems do arise, that there's sort of a right and a wrong way to sort of handle things. And I think you very eloquently pointed out that the right way to do that is there's a time to step in and sort of guide the parents in a different direction. But we certainly don't want to imply that this is a huge issue, because certainly it isn't. But it is something obviously we want to bring to light. Cindy, I know you've got maybe another question or two in there. Go ahead.
So I just think it's so cool that I've had the pleasure of meeting most of the people that are involved with U.S. Kids Golf. How did you guys find each other? Were you friends? Did they hire you? Because I mean to tell you, you're just so cool. And again, when I first went to get certified, I thought, am I too old to do this? And then I looked at you guys and I go, nope, I'm not.
Oh, that's right. Well, I'm the old gray dog around here, but I met Dan Van Horn in 1999 at the Buick Challenge, a PGA Tour event in Pine Mountain, Georgia, my hometown, and we were at the Junior Clinic, and Callaway was giving away adult 4-irons to all the kids in attendance. They were getting on.
Sorry.
The kids were getting off school buses and coming in. There must have been 300 or 400 kids there. They ran out of clubs, and my local community was making a donation to our youth program, and Dan was there, and I was selling Dan's clubs at our youth course, and I met him, and I said, I really like your equipment. That's when we just had red, blue, and green. We had U.S. Kids had 3 sizes, and he said, well, I'd love to talk to you. Come up to my office. And we started talking, and I told him I was going to get out of the adult coaching world. I wanted just to spend the rest of my career in youth. And we hit it off, and one thing's led to another. And now I've been to every world championship, 18 consecutive world championships that we've had, and helped develop a lot of these programs. So it's been a real blessing. Dan Van Horn is, in my mind, he's the greatest innovator certainly in the youth world that I've ever met, between the equipment and the leadership with scaling and all of the things that we do. He's a brilliant man.
Truly is.
Very good. So, John, you talk about some of the different development programs. Talk about some of the things that are offered through U.S. Kids Golf. Obviously, equipment and things like that. But what are some of the other programs that you can maybe talk a little bit about for those parents that are listening to say, that's something I might like to get my kid involved? What are some of the other programs that are offered?
Well, our tournament program, we have local tours that we play. Cindy had mentioned you had mentioned you caddied in one of them. We have in about 50 markets around the country. Parents could go on to uskidsgolf.com and try to find a local tour in their area. And if one is not offered, reach out to us. We're looking to grow this and get more youth playing. It's the courses are scaled for yardage so that it works. So that they can get in and the starting point is to play local golf so you don't have to travel. And so you get into the game, they're at trial stage, they're just playing. And then those that stay in long enough and start to develop, we have a way for them to advance to some travel golf, play some regionals, and then possibly qualify for our World Championship. So our World Championship is sort of like it's like the Little League World Series, if you will. It's a joyous celebration that they can come play. But there's a way at the local level to do that. Parents can find all of that information out there on the web. I think the other thing through our coaches, on our website. The other thing, our Positive Coaching Alliance program that we're with, I would encourage all parents to take a look at that. That's at positivecoach.org. And become a second goal parent. It will help parents kind of understand the culture of youth sports, maybe what their roles are, how they could best help their kids. And at the end of the day, I always tell parents, this is a great opportunity. Golf is a great opportunity for helping you learn to let go. Eventually, Cindy, you had 3 children. There was a point in time you had to start to let go a little bit. I mean, I'm sure you were petrified when they started driving a vehicle. Whatever situation your parents are dealing with, it's a part. You're really just getting them ready to take on the world, if you will. So I tell them to learn to let go and don't be part of the chaos. Golf is chaotic. So if they're caddying or their kids come to their parents for nurturing and a couple other good web pages out there parents can go to, changingthegameproject.com. That's a good one. And All Pro Dad. That's a good site too to look at.
Perfect. Some great information there.
Tell us about the yardages, John. Can you tell us?
I'm sorry.
I think again, I know that you do so many things so well, and I'm sure it has to do with the whole team that you have at U.S. Kids Golf. But tell us about the yardages, because I'm going to try to qualify for the Women's U.S. Open, Senior Open this year, and I got news for you. You should call the USGA and say, hey, can you make the yardages so they can reach the green?
Hey, you're exactly right. Yardage is so critical in our game, and it's something that certainly if you're on the youth side of things, we've done all the research. We have real world experience watching kids of different ages hit the ball. We've used TrackMan data. We've tested. We've basically figured it out. We are the world's leading expert on yardage for youth. It's since expanded into what we now call our longleaf tee system, which is a complete overhaul of thinking of how the game should be played and how it's currently played. For example, Cindy, like couple of years ago on the LPGA Tour, their driver carry distance was 218. All right, so that's going to be based on that. You could play about a 6,200-yard course and have a mix of, short par 3, long par 3, a driver sand wedge, maybe a driver hybrid of 1 par 4, maybe you could reach a par 5 and 2, something like that. And I think it's difficult on the LPGA Tour with the way that the course setups because you have such a stretch of bombers and shorter hitters, and so it's a harder setup there. I remember at Pinehurst playing number 2, they had to shorten the course. I think it was the 3rd round because the players couldn't reach and keep on the green. All the players were coming in with hybrids except the bombers. So we understand that certainly in the youth world and how it's set up. So we've got the data. We know how far if you're in the 50 percentile, for example, a 10-year-old, that ought to be about a 5,000-yard course. Because they're hitting the ball about 175. The elite players hitting at 175 in the air. But think about this, Cindy. All the people that you coach out there, if you're coaching someone that can hit at 150 in the air, whether it's a youth or a female student or even a man, well, that's a 4,300-yard course. There aren't many setups out there at that yardage that's underneath 5,000, and that's really our target, under 5,000 yards, to make the course playable and again have driver sand wedge for these 8-year-olds and a par 5 they can reach into and shoot tour-like scores and have fun. And otherwise, you end up just hitting irrelevant shots in developing youth. If you're playing a course that's too long, you only need 4 or 5 clubs. You need a driver, a lofted club, a wedge, and a putter, and you don't get complete game development. So we live in this world of yardage, and it's something that we've really researched.
Well, I'm glad you did because I totally agree. It's like, wow. And again, I think the men get it because they've got par 4s they can reach. They're shooting much lower scores. And I understand that there's such a big, huge difference between, Laura Davies and Cindy Miller playing on the same golf course. There's absolutely no comparison, but I really wish that they would listen to what you guys have done because I think it would help the game. Not only for me, but for everyone who plays it, because there's so many men, I want to break 90. I said, well, move up a tee, Why do we make it so hard on ourselves?
Well, you're exactly right, and I challenge who I call the gatekeepers of the game. Those are, course owners, golf professionals, tour officials. Tradition is a wonderful game, or tradition's a wonderful part of our game, as long as it doesn't hold you back. And I think some of our traditions are holding us back. We've inherited some yardage scenarios that need to be changed.
Yep, totally agree.
I agree as well, John and Cindy. And I think that many of the sort of the elite professionals, again, Nicholas and even Palmer, the late Arnold Palmer has said this, as many of others have, with a lot of the advancements and changes to equipment, I won't say that necessarily have made a lot of golf courses obsolete, but they've forced them to, lengthen them. Even Augusta National over time has been lengthened in order to accommodate some of these bombers, as you put it, John. And it's really taken away from the average player wanting to get out there and play. Some of these courses that are 7,000 plus yards is just too far from them to reach. And, certainly they can move up a tee block or two, but they're still faced with the same challenges. That, they're not able to reach the greens. They're just too long. So definitely I think that needs to be taken a serious look at. Just very quickly, John, because we only got a couple of minutes left, but I wanted to give you an opportunity just to mention something. You talked about in the opening credits for you that golf is not only in 49 states, but 40 nations around the world. how much is golf really becoming sort of a big interest for a lot of other countries that maybe traditionally weren't playing golf? There obviously seems to be a lot of interest generated. Are you noticing that as well?
Yes, most definitely. Czech Republic's got some youth playing. Italy has made great strides in the last 3 years. They've got the Italian Federation behind it. You're going to start to see some young Italians start to emerge onto the national stage. South Africa's always been strong. China is a developing market now where things are starting to happen there, and so it's. Every location has its own sort of challenges, and you hit on it about course access. Kids have to get on the course, but a lot of good things happening out there around the world that are that are starting to make a difference.
Fantastic. Well, John, we want to thank you for joining us this morning on the Women of Golf Show. It's been very interesting to hear some of your perspectives and thoughts on junior golf, and it's very obvious that they've got the right man heading up the Director of Player Development. So please continue the great work, and for those that maybe are listening to the show that would like to learn more information, maybe just a quick rundown again of where they can go to get information about U.S. Kids Golf.
Yes, they can go to uskidsgolf.com. You can look at all of our initiatives there, from tournaments to products to our coaching portals. So it's they could even call in. Our call-in number is 888-387-5437.
Perfect. Well, John, we want to thank you again for being our very special guest this morning on the Women of Golf Show. And again, please keep up the great work. And we'd love to have you come back again on another show and maybe talk a little bit more about junior golf. But keep up the great work, and thank you for joining Cindy and I this morning on the Women of Golf.
Thank you, Ted. Cindy, thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right,
Hope
have a great
to see
day.
you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, that was our very special guest, John Godwin, Director of Player Development for the U.S. Kids Golf Foundation. Very interesting, discussion, Cindy. Some of the points that he brought up were very, very enlightening and obviously very interesting. And hopefully, those of you tuning into the show this morning were able to take away some great tips that maybe will help you in getting your youngster involved in the game, and some of the information that they can get by visiting uskidsgolf.com. All the information is there. And for obviously you coaches and teaching professionals out there that maybe want to get more involved in junior golf, again, you might want to visit uskidsgolf.com and visit some of the coaches portals as well and get your information there. But as always, Cindy Miller and I want to thank all the listeners for faithfully tuning in each and every week from literally all around the globe, and we appreciate your continued support, and we will continue to bring you some more great guests and some more great discussions on the show. We hope you enjoyed us here this morning. So on behalf of Cindy Miller and I, thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on the Women of Golf. God bless everybody, and thanks, Cindy, for doing a great job.
Thanks, Ted. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.